Hi. Hello and welcome to Anything Bagel. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. We are back to a normal week where we will be drawing the hat, whatever our topic is going to be that we talk about on Anything Bagel, because we talk about anything.
I love the hat draw days. They're really fun.
Nice.
This is like, it's our improv. That's why it's Anything Bagel.
It's improv. And we're like Saturday Night Live. Been going for 50 years doing improv. And
we could do some comedy Saturday Night Live.
We could. I was just listening to our episode the other day of the weird laws, and that was
see, that was like Saturday Night Live.
Yes, it was making me giggle. So if you haven't listened to our one on strange oddities or something like that, I think it's called, and the strange laws that are in the United States and in Europe, that was a fun one. Yeah. So if you have a topic that you would like us to discuss in the future of any sort of topic,
literally,
put a comment.
Cheese.
It can be anything. It could be a book. It could be music. It could be a movie. It could be a sports person. It could be a historical figure. It could be anything.
Yeah.
That's
something funny.
Something funny, something serious,
something totally irrelevant.
Yes, totally irrelevant and unfactual.
Yeah, we can.
Some of what we share is unfactual.
Yeah, we're just regular people who pretend to know sometimes.
We are.
Yeah, and we don't always know.
We don't always know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. And
I get to draw this time.
Yep, it is Danielle's turn to draw out of the hat this time. So we're going to see what comes out.
What's meant to be.
Okay.
I feel like there's more than one.
I think it's a long piece of paper. Whoa, it's a long thing.
Oh, this is so good. Doubled every day for 30 days equals $5.3 million.
Ooh, yes.
This is so good. I have a lot to say about this.
I tried once to do, write it out, the math of, you know what I mean? Just making sure it was really right. But then, kind of got lost along the way. But I know I have seen and heard that several times, that a penny doubled every day for 30 days equals 5.3 million, because your mind can't grasp that.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. A penny doubled every day. This just comes to mind of the money and budgeting, because we've talked before, for me, of coming from a scarcity mindset or a situation where I've had to learn about money all over again. And this is just one of those things. Investing is so scary, but also there's so much resources. Yeah, I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah. Because, if you start investing young, then that, it compounds over the years, and it's amazing how fast that can grow if you start when you're,
and it more than doubles when the longevity is.
Right. And you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So even if you start with $25 a pay or $10 a pay, whatever it is. But one thing that we aren't always so good at is learning how to pay ourselves first.
Yeah.
And
we want to be satisfied right now and not worry so much about the future. But
use a rule wait 24 hours before you purchase something.
Yeah.
Go to the store, you see something, you think you really want it. And if you can be disciplined enough to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to wait 24 hours. And I still want it in 24 hours. Or I've heard the thing where you put your credit card, freeze your credit card in the freezer.
Yeah.
In a bowl of water, freeze it, and then you have to wait for it to thaw out.
You
have to go buy something.
If you gotta do what you gotta do, because, and mainly for me, and I think most women, it just comes down to education. So I'll preface this whole episode by saying most of my knowledge about money and what we're probably going to talk about is going to come from, you've taught me a lot about money, and Tori Dunlap. I wish I was sponsored or paid, but she deserves all the credit, because I am the richest today that I've ever been, just by simple things. And it was by reading a book. It was by education. And it was, other than buying the book, it was free knowledge. And I really wish more women, we are not taught the same as men. We're not This isn't about all men and women. If that's just factual things, scientific things that she even points out, looks up about wage equality, promotions, bargaining with your boss. And women need to educate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any weird thoughts about money, or if money is a touchy subject for you, it's usually lack of education, and you just need to learn about it to be more empowered.
Right. And learning, like you said earlier, what a scarcity mindset is. And if you grew up with a scarcity mindset, which if, some people don't know what that is, it's like if you grew up, let's say, in a family who lived paycheck to paycheck or less than that, or somebody, lost their job and your family struggled. And it's not meant to be like anything negative. It's just understanding where your mindset about money comes from. If you come from a place where there's never enough, there's never going to be enough.
Yeah.
Instead of, changing that dialogue, in your mind and, learning that money ebbs and flows.
Yeah. And she talks about a lot about when it comes to the investing portion is stock market is always about the long game. It's time in the market is where you get the maximum value.
Right. You can't react to everything.
Yeah. And that's why it is important to start young, because your game plan is going to be different when you're 20 or 30 than it is even starting at 40 and 50 and 60. Your investing will be and should be different at certain ages.
Right.
So
you diversify your portfolio depending on the stage of life that you're in.
Yeah.
And that when you're younger, you can invest a little riskier. And then as you get closer to that retirement age, you start moving some of your portfolio into, some's in safer things. You have some in still risky.
Yeah.
And not, like, I don't know, I say risky,
volatile or
volatile, whatever the word is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as you get closer and closer to retirement,
Yeah.
And if you work with a financial advisor, they can help you.
Yeah.
Along those steps as well. So
I was really saddened by a story she had said about this person who had invested money in their 401k or whatever your thing is, and even your IRA. And she said it's not supposed to stop there, because she put all of that money there through all of this time, but she didn't take the next step to say where it's supposed to be going. Mm-hmm. So she never accrued anything over that time.
Right.
Just
because if you're having something too safe for too many years, you're not going to see necessarily the return. But, part of it too is, and I know a lot of people have learned a lot about finance stuff from like the Dave Ramsey courses and stuff. And I know that they even teach that in schools, and he's got books and stuff too. And, one of the things about, like teaching your kids is that you set up like the 3 envelopes or, and one is you are paying yourself, savings type thing. Then you have your, what do I need money for?
Yeah.
And then play money, just, teaching them. And they have all kinds of apps now where you can pay your kids, like for doing chores and that kind of thing. And you can set it up, I think, in the background different ways where some of it is available for them to spend like on a card. Because, people don't carry cash very much anymore. But some of it's spendable and then some of it is invested. But they have different kinds of apps that you can get to work with your kids on it.
I think, too, that most people think like millions of dollars at retirement is unrealistic. And it's very not, because you have to think about how many years you're going to be retired or without, I don't want to say necessarily without income, but not obviously the same. And that does take a lot of money. I think Dave Ramsey and even Tori Dunlap, you sit down and think about what you want your life to look like when you're done working. Or if you want to retire a few years early, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Because if you want to travel for all of your retirement and spend a lot of money, it's a different. But if you want to live a, more conservative when you get older and spend more money now, that's okay too. Right. But you really should sit down and think about what your life, what you want it to look like.
Have a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a plan.
And it's not unrealistic.
Right. And I do like Dave Ramsey's, I mean, about like paying off your debt, and like writing down, your different debts that you have and the interest rate on them.
Yeah.
And choosing the one that has the highest interest rate to pay that one down first.
Yeah.
And so you put the most money there, pay what you have to on the other person, put the most money there. And then once you have that one paid off, then you do that with the next one and the next one and the next one. And you really can see that, effect. And it can be done. But a lot of times, one of the things that we do in life is when we don't want to face something, we just ignore it.
Yeah.
And just pretend it doesn't exist, that it's not a thing, instead of taking those, an action step. And
for me,
something.
One of the things I had to do, because this was a scarcity mindset, is I had to put my bills on auto pay, because I do not, even though I had money to pay the bills, I avoided looking at it, or basically I avoided looking at it. I didn't want to deal with it, even though there was money in there to pay the bills. So now they're on auto pay and I don't need to worry about it. So I don't have to look at it. I just set up, and I just learned what works for me and myself. Mm-hmm. And like, if, you should take a look at yourself and how you feel about money. Do you have a scarcity mindset, but you do have money? Because that's a situation where, I've had to say to myself, you have more than enough. You've always been taken care of.
You've always been taken care of. Yep.
So,
we've heard that on podcasts before.
So,
I've always been taken care of. I'm safe. I am. Yeah.
And if you have a scarcity mindset and you don't have enough, that is concerning too. And you need to probably have the painful conversation with yourself. Or Tori even says, if you have a friend that you trust to sit down and force you and make you do it, like open your bills for you because you have a pile of them not opened.
Right.
Is not going to judge you. Is just going to be like, this is the way it is. Help you do it. If you need to have somebody do it with you, do it.
Right. Because it's not going to get taken care of just ignoring the pile.
Most of the time, even though the situation may or may not be bad, it's really usually not as bad as your brain is making it seem. Even if it is bad, you can usually figure out an action plan to get yourself where you need to be, but it just compounds in your brain the longer you put it off. So
most things are figure outable.
They are.
I use that at work a lot, but yeah. And the longer, like you said, the longer you push it off and procrastinate it, the bigger it becomes. The more you push it off, the bigger, it's just like a snowball effect that, instead of just doing the first thing.
Knowledge is power. Right. So if you don't know, like if you have a situation where you want to invest, there's so much education out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to learn and take what you learn with a grain of salt. You can't just Google it and take the first thing that's on there nowadays. But
usually most communities too have some kind of a program where you can learn.
Dave Ramsey has one, and Tori Dunlap has, which I'm hoping to do, is her stock market school, where she breaks it down simple, helps you do it, helps you get started. Her goal was her first 1K, so she wants every woman to have $100,000.
And I know, like in our local community, they, through like organizations like Love Inc. or through the Council on Aging, different things like that. I mean, they do offer financial educational classes that people can take to start learning. And like you said, you have to figure out your individual way, but one way, because you were talking about auto pay, and one thing that I will tell people is an option of a way you can do like the auto pay and earn rewards on your credit card, or earn cash back, travel miles. Is to put those auto pay things, on a card where you earn rewards. But you have to be disciplined to pay that off. And so instead of making, let's say you, I don't know, between different things that you do, your utilities, your groceries, your gas, whatever, that kind of a thing, instead of paying for them all, individually, you use your card and then make one payment once a month, but you have to pay, it in full.
I mean, you do have to be diligent. And that's one of those things where like you educate yourself. We've been paying, you've been paying cash or your debit card for your car payment for 30 years. Do you know how many miles that could be?
I know.
You know,
miles. You could go to Italy.
I mean, seriously, that's like a little stuff. And she teaches about that too. It's like, this is how we all become richer, and you get free flights and you get to stay at that hotel. 1 second.
We're doing an experiment. So
Yep. Okay.
There we go. Yes, we're doing an experiment. So,
yeah. Anyways, just being smarter and getting rewarded.
Right.
For what would you do with $5.3 million? What if you won $5.3 million?
Well, I said maybe I could bring something in that I learned on a podcast today, and this isn't it. But how would you do your job if you were going to get paid $1 million to do it? Like, would you show up different if you were going to be paid $1 million? Like, what attitude do you bring to your job, and how would you do it? Whether it would be, whatever your job might be, would you, step it up a notch and do it with more effort, pride, positivity, and that if you started showing up and doing it that way every day, that it probably in some form or fashion would bring about some type of change in your life. But
because I feel like that stuff compounds and perpetuates. When you give more effort in one area of your life, it trickles down to everything.
And we don't know what it's going to necessarily trickle down or what's going to come of it. But if you just are faithful about, doing it. One of the things he was talking about in it is, it was Terry Crews, who used to be in the NFL. And once he was out of the NFL, he kind of went into a depression type thing. But anyway, he had decided at some point he needed to start working out again, like physically going to the gym. But so at first he went to the gym and sat on a machine and read a magazine. But he told himself he was going to go to the gym every day. And so I can't remember how long it was, or just keep going every day, sit and read the magazine, whatever it is. But sooner or later, if you keep going to the gym every day, sooner or later, you're going to start working. It's like they say about the old analogy of go to the barbershop. You're going to get your hair cut sooner or later. And that can be you can use that for scenarios too of, if you're somebody who has stopped drinking, that sometimes at first you should not go to the bar because you don't sit at the bar long enough,
Don't put yourself in those scenarios.
Or
which can be with spending. If you have a spending problem, maybe you do need to freeze your credit card.
Right.
Or you're not allowed to go to TJ Maxx after work. Or, you have to put a freeze on it. Because we said this in the last episode, sometimes, just like the Taylor Swift, sometimes, hi, it's me. I am the problem. I'm avoiding my bills. I just go to TJ Maxx and spend money, which is a big part of that is the way the world is too, is consumerism is like at an all-time high right now. And so trying to keep up, it's a lot of inner work because you don't need the new Stanley. You don't need a new cup. Or
they hurt when you drop them on your toe anyway. So, granddaughter had one dropped on her toe by somebody we know.
Money is, I always, because I got these books from a couple of my nieces, and a lot of people, the old saying is the love of money is evil. But I always say, I don't want this to be about you turning into loving money. It's just that money brings opportunity. So money brings you security. Money brings you safety if you need to get out of a situation. If you have an emergency fund and you need to flee somewhere, money brings you a lot of opportunity. So it doesn't have to be obsessive. You don't have to love it and want to keep getting it to spend more on other stuff. It's just that having even just a safety net for especially women, because that's what I'm talking about, is so you're never trapped. Or if you want to leave a job, if you save up your finances so you can be comfortable and leave a job that you've been annoyed with and start something else, it gives you those opportunities to follow your dreams. So,
right. Yeah. It's all a mindset of how you view it, how you view it. And there's lots of, because you know me and my positive affirmations, but you can go out on YouTube and there are positive affirmations about financial wellness that you can do and repeat to yourself, because really financial is a part of a well-rounded, well person. There's, financial wellness along with, the other ones, physical, spiritual,
mental,
and
spiritual,
emotional, all of those. But financial wellness is another one of those. So I was thinking too, as we were looking at this, that it's not just a money thing that compounds either. It's, those small action steps that we take in other areas of our life that compound as well. Ridiculously small action steps.
Yes, habits. Mm-hmm. You can compound habits.
Right.
And usually, like, it could be negative too. Like, if you're doom scrolling and then you're doom scrolling for an hour, it just compounds and compounds. So anything.
And it can be a positive thing if you start in one way, changing your diet, and then you stick with that, and then it compounds day after day after day. And then, you add another thing in. Those things compound.
Yeah.
Going to the gym, you start with light weights and work your way up and increase your repetitions. And,
I mean, that starts with a penny. So, like, if you just save $1 and you got $2.
I know. If you just, because little things like that, like you were saying, with $1, be disciplined and say, every time I get a dollar bill, I'm just going to
put it away.
Stick it aside, or you could do with a $5 bill. And every time you get one, you just say, oh, nope, I don't spend those.
Yep.
And you stick it away. It's amazing how fast it adds up.
We just need to be more diligent with ourselves, checking in and see what works, and being able to pivot and change when you're realizing it doesn't work for you. Because a lot of people, I think, get stuck and they're like, well, it didn't work. I missed the gym already. And then they just miss it, and then they miss it and miss it. Well, just notice when that's happening and pivot and change. Maybe you need to go to the gym at a different time of day. And maybe you need to save your dollars on Monday instead of Friday. So whatever, we're not all the same.
Whatever works.
Yeah. And if you're going to go to the internet searching for like financial advice, I encourage you to find more than one and see what works for you, because they're not all the same. And you might pick one and you might really like it at the beginning and you think it's going well, but then you find out it's not. That's okay. There's another person out there. Go find them.
And there's apps. I know there's lots of apps out there. Yeah. And so sometimes it's just asking other people what they use, to save and how they save. And
that's good too, is bring it up and talk with your coworkers. Hey, do you have a savings account? Where do you have a savings account? High yield savings account. What's your interest?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right. What kind of credit card do you have? Do you earn miles? Cash back? Do you?
Yeah. Just talk about it.
Right.
Because most people, money is kind of a sensitive topic, but once you talk about, most people are okay with talking about it, especially if it's like with savings or, credit card points. We all want to share the information.
Right.
So, and if I know that my bank is doing really good at this, well, I'm for sure going to tell somebody if they ask me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyhow.
There's a lot of things that we can work at and do. There's sometimes there's something that we think we want to do, like, whatever it is. And if you just start out doing it like 15 minutes a day, make it, because we've talked about this before, make it so that you will do it at first. Don't make it so hard.
Yeah.
Don't say I'm going to work out for an hour, start with 15 minutes, or, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, or, geez, I really have wanted to start painting, do the thing for a shorter period of time and then keep. Because a lot of times if we will start doing something, then we'll do it longer than we think anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just starting.
Like opening the book. Oh, I'm only going to read one page. Well, you always end up usually reading more than one page. But if you only tell yourself, I'm only going to read one page, and maybe you do only get one page in, it's still an accomplishment. You got the one page done, but usually our brains work better than that. You're going to read more than one page. Breaking it down into easier actionable steps, like 1 page a day or 15 minutes here. All that little stuff keeps compounding interest.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've talked about, you start saying, well, I need to get to bed earlier. And so you don't do that, like go to bed 2 hours earlier the first night because you're not going to keep it up.
Yeah, no.
You dogs need back in, go to bed 15 minutes earlier the first week.
Yeah.
Go to bed a half hour earlier the next week, and then keep working your way up. Because if you make it sometimes too big of a change all at once, then you don't stick with it.
Your life should be a science experiment.
Yeah.
It should just keep constantly changing, asking why that didn't work. I'll try something else, because that's why we all get stuck, and then you just stay the same or stay doing the same thing. Like, check in with yourself, ask why that doesn't work. Why am I feeling like this? Why don't I have money? Why do I feel like I need to go spend money?
Right. Get curious.
Yeah.
Get curious.
Yeah, that's all. That's really all it takes.
And try. I just posted the other day a thing about, failing, it's an equal failure. Failure equals, it means you tried something, Yeah.
I don't even like that we call it a failure.
I know.
Most people, I mean, I guess it does depend on your mindset. Most people, high achievers, don't see failure as a failure. It's just another opportunity to learn. It didn't work out, but that doesn't mean I'm going to quit. I'm going to figure out a different avenue.
It was an experiment.
Yep.
Just Jamie Kern Lima talked about that in her book, Worthy, about
I think she must.
Every night at dinner, they had to bring up one way that they failed that day.
Yeah, at dinner. I loved that. Yeah.
Bring up one way that you failed that day.
Yeah.
To get the conversation around failure more comfortable for one.
Yeah.
Accepting that, failure, it means you are trying.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't necessarily mean it's a,
Yeah.
So, so to come up with one.
I like that, like getting comfortable with failure, because it should be. It's just like getting comfortable with anything else in your life. You have to, it is a normal thing for things to not work out the first time around.
Right.
So
I think it was the same podcast I was listening to today. Yes, it was. And Mel Robbins was referring to it was a Jeff Bezos. Am I saying his name right? From
Amazon.
Back when he first decided, he quit like a Wall Street job. And because he wanted to do this internet thing, and he wanted to start selling books on the internet.
Thought he was crazy.
And his boss said, that really is a great idea, but I think it's a great idea for somebody else who doesn't have a really good job. And his boss asked him to give 48 hours before he made his decision. And so he had to come up with a way to make his decision.
Yeah.
And so he came up with this, like a no regret type decision process where he envisioned himself at 80 and looking back on his life, would he regret not having tried this selling books on the internet thing? And
I would say
that yes, he would regret not trying. He said, I would not regret failing. At all. He said, I would 100% regret not trying it, and had no fear of failing at it, because then at least he would know he had tried. So that's how he decided.
He never did.
No, we wouldn't.
He would not be one of the richest men in the world.
And we wouldn't have shipments of things that come to our house.
Well, and I was going to say something about like Thomas Edison developing the light bulb. He had thousands of failures.
Oh, yes.
That's the only way.
I know.
That's the only way you win, is to find out how it doesn't work.
And Michael Jordan missed thousands of baskets.
Yeah. It's just that
he made a lot.
It's just that we glorify the winning and the success, but really
we don't see the work that came in the background.
Yeah.
I think one day Thomas Edison woke up and invented a light bulb.
Yeah. And we should, which I do want to read more biographies about sports people, because they're just more comfortable with failure.
Right.
And we should talk about it more often.
Somehow along their life. Yeah, they became more comfortable.
Yeah.
That it's riskier. Well, I think I wrote this down. It's riskier to not take the chance. The fact is that the risk of doing nothing is probably greater than the risk of acting.
Yeah.
That's from the book Fish, about the fish market out in Seattle. But and Jeff Bezos talks about that as he goes further. It's just, as we get older, I think it was like 15, I don't know how many years later, he was having that same conversation on a podcast or something where his brother was interviewing him. And he said, looking back over our life, it's often the omission of the things we didn't do that haunt us rather than the things we tried and failed at. It's those things that we didn't try.
Well, in my line of like experience as a hospice nurse, when people are reviewing their life, they go through the season of talking about all the things they've accomplished and the things that they love, but there's always those things that they regret, and it's usually something about not taking an action. I didn't, if it's a single man, I never wrote that girl a letter. You just...
Jeff Bezos is an example, is there, that you didn't tell that person that you loved them and they married somebody else, just something like that, or you didn't take that trip.
Yep.
You always wanted to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And you didn't do it, and now you can't.
Yeah. And your life's not going to change, especially like in regards to money, if you keep ignoring it.
Right.
It's just going to get worse. And if you want to take the trip, if you're regretting not taking the trip, or you're regretting that you can't go out to dinner on girls' night, those are going to keep adding up.
Right.
And they're going to keep bothering you. And nothing's going to change if nothing changes.
Right. And if you're a young person watching this, there are a lot of people that look back and regret the fact that they didn't start saving and investing money when they were younger.
Yeah.
So just take their word for it.
Because, I know there's so many.
There are so many.
It's like, how many times do you have to?
Yeah, just take the word for it.
Yeah.
Start doing it because, But I liked that. I liked that thought process of making a decision is look forward, to, and he said that took out a lot of like the more immediate things that were kind of getting in his way and making him fearful or whatever, because when he did quit that Wall Street job, he quit before it was annual bonus time. And a lot of times for those people, that is when they make their most money out of the whole entire year.
Oh, okay.
And it took that out of the equation because he was looking at it from when I'm 80. And when I'm 80, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. And so I'm going to let go of that current fear that I have.
Yeah.
So that, I can.
And
not everything's going to work out. Not everybody's going to develop Amazon. But, I mean, not everything is going to work out. But
you don't have
to try
Amazon either.
No.
You can, it's whatever your life, what is your Amazon? Right. It doesn't have to be something that affects everybody else, but it could affect your immediate circle.
Right. So it could be you. If, there's that book that you've always had on your heart that you wanted to write.
Yeah.
Or take some kind of a class.
Yeah.
I
really think because most people almost all successful people have looked at their life in the future, or written a letter to themselves when they're 80, or writing it from your 80-year-old perspective to you now. Just think about what you want your life to look like, and how are you gonna get that?
And I did that as part of that Artist Way book.
Yeah.
And it was that write yourself. I just saw one of them run one direction. The one that's out there. Sorry, talking about ducks. But is write yourself a letter from your 80-year-old self, and then write yourself a letter from your 8-year-old self.
Yeah.
Your 8-year-old self is looking at you, wanting you to be the hero that they needed.
Yeah.
All along. Be your own hero. It was Rachel's.
Oh yeah.
And then your 80-year-old self is writing from that. Come on, try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try. Do the thing. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you look back, you're gonna be grateful that you tried.
Yep.
Whatever it is. And
yeah. And always remember, failure is not failure.
Right.
It's just not.
It just means you're trying.
Yep.
You're just trying new things. You're experimenting.
And give yourself grace, too, with spending or anything. If you don't, if you did really good for a week, but then the next week you went out and spent a little more money, just recognize that.
And then get back on.
Yeah, and then get back on the train of whatever you were doing and move on. That's the thing, is the train keeps moving no matter what. So you got to keep on keeping on.
Can't keep the butt kicking machine on for very long, because that doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
You just get back and so Yeah. And you can look this up online and they will show you the math.
Google will.
Yeah. A penny doubled every day for 30 days equals $5.3 million. So there you
have it.
There you have it.
Open a high yield savings account if that's the only thing you do with $1.
There you go.
$1 in a high yield savings account will get you way more than just $1 in your bank savings account.
And then save those ones or save those fives or whatever it is you're going to do.
That's how I started. That's how I am in the position I'm in.
One step at a time. Yep. All right.
I like it.
I like it too. That was good. All right.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being here with us on Anything Bagel. Yeah. And again, like we said, if there's a topic you would like us to discuss, put it in the comments and
like, share, subscribe.
Share
this with somebody who you think might need it. That might be a good
share with
start.
somebody that that might need some financial encouragement, inspiration, curiosity, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
a young person, so that they can just hear that part about where we said take our word for it. That if you start young, just take it from all of the people that wish they had. So there are a gabillion of them. So and we will see you.
We'll be back
on the next episode of Anything Bagel.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.